After the October local elections, which many commentators called an electoral defeat for the Republicans, the attention of the American media unexpectedly shifted from internal party intrigues to Donald Trump himself, primarily to his health, daily activities, and ability to withstand the pressures of the presidential office. The discussion once again went beyond politics and touched on a topic that had long been taboo for the Republican establishment, but has now become central to public discourse, talk shows, podcasts, and even international headlines. A series of recent events, including public appearances, official statements, and viral videos, has prompted experts, the public, independent observers, and even some Republican donors to wonder, does his physical condition really match the previous level of energy, stamina, and inexhaustible vitality he demonstrated at rallies in 2016 and 2020? Trump himself and representatives of his administration claim that he is in excellent shape, full of energy, sleeps little but effectively, and continues to work at full capacity without any restrictions or breaks. At the same time, the media, analysts, medical commentators, and social media users are drawing attention to emerging signs that may indicate health problems, including visual changes, behavioral deviations, and physiological markers. We have compiled known facts, official data, expert opinions, and a chronology of events on this subject. In mid-2025, the White House officially announced Trump's medical diagnosis for the first time, which was a rare instance of open discussion about the health of a sitting president and prompted a wave of requests for additional data. According to the administration, the president has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a relatively mild disorder of the veins in the lower extremities in which blood flow to the heart is impeded due to weakened valves and decreased vascular wall tone. It was emphasized that this condition is benign and common for his age group, affecting millions of Americans over the age of 70, especially those who stand or travel a lot. The reason for consulting doctors was the appearance of photos and videos from rallies on the internet. They show noticeable swelling in the ankle area and bruises on the back of the hands, which quickly spread on social media and were analyzed by users. The White House press secretary called these changes expected signs of aging, long flights, and everyday stress, while the president's doctor, Sean Barbabella, said that no serious problems were found during the examination and that all key organs are functioning normally without any abnormalities. According to him, the president's heart is functioning normally, and targeted tests, including stress tests and echocardiography, found no signs of heart disease or other chronic conditions, including diabetes, hypertension, or kidney failure. Barbabella also announced the head of state's heart age. Based on the electrocardiogram, ejection fraction, and other parameters, the indicators correspond to a person of approximately 65 years of age, approximately 14 years younger than Trump's actual age. Additionally, it was noted that body weight and cholesterol levels are controlled by diet, physical activity, and, if necessary, medication, and Holter monitoring data showed no heart rhythm disturbances. The bruises on his hands were explained simply and logically by the White House. Frequent handshakes with voters during campaigns, rallies, and receptions, combined with low-dose aspirin for preventive purposes to prevent blood clots and cardiac events, could have led to minor damage to the skin and small blood vessels, which is typical for older people with thin skin. The swelling in his legs was linked to venous insufficiency, a condition in which the veins are less able to return blood from the lower extremities, resulting in slight pastiness, discomfort, and sometimes visible swelling. Doctors point out that with this diagnosis, the most common symptoms are fatigue, heaviness or pain in the legs, possible swelling in the ankles, and changes in skin color. This condition is not usually considered a serious disease and is treated with compression garments, exercise, leg elevation, or in rare cases, sclerotherapy. The administration insists that no malignant processes have been found in the president. There have been no dangerous neoplasms or strokes, and other health biomarkers are within normal limits. Back in the spring of that year, an official medical report already noted that Trump was fully fit to perform his presidential duties, with recommendations for staying in shape, including regular walks and weight control. Meanwhile, in parallel with official reports on diagnoses, examinations, and prevention, there is ongoing discussion about the nature of recent episodes which are being analyzed by experts and discussed in real time. Commentators recall several instances when Trump's appearance and behavior raised questions among viewers, journalists, and even allies. In the fall, he descended from the West Point Academy stage via a long, slippery ramp, as eyewitnesses noted, moving extremely cautiously, almost in small steps. holding onto the railing with both hands. The president himself later explained that the surface was wet after rain and the slope was noticeable. But journalists at the scene reported that the weather remained dry and the slope of the structure was moderate and standard for such events, with no apparent risks. After descending, he took a glass of water. First, he brought it up with his right hand, and then unexpectedly brought his left hand up, as if one hand was not enough for a stable grip and control over the liquid. During the same speech, he stumbled over his words several times and misnamed famous military leaders. In particular, he confused Ulysses Grant with Douglas MacArthur, and also mentioned non-existent details from the history of the Civil War. These details quickly spread through the media and social networks, sparking lively discussions, memes, fact checks, and numerous interpretations from supporters, critics, and neutral analysts. Earlier, at the end of last spring, at a memorial ceremony at Arlington Cemetery, many noticed that Trump was not standing quite straight and was swaying slightly while laying wreaths, leaning on his aides and periodically adjusting his posture. Some observers suggested that this could have been due to fatigue, heat, and a busy schedule with several flights and ceremonies in one day. Around the same time, Trump himself mentioned in an interview that he was taking hydroxychloroquine, a drug that he promoted as a protective measure against COVID-19 at the height of the pandemic. Even though its effectiveness had not been scientifically proven, the FDA warned of the risks and later revoked its emergency authorization. Hydroxychloroquine does indeed have reported side effects, including dizziness, nausea, vision problems, and even rare heart complications. But White House officials did not link them to the president's condition and emphasized the preventive nature of the treatment. Nevertheless, the combination of episodes of weakness and the use of a controversial drug added fuel to the already heated rumors, intensifying the debate about the nature of the observed symptoms, possible long-term consequences, and treatment alternatives. An episode from last year is considered curious. In the midst of the 2024 campaign at a rally on a hot day, 2 listeners became ill from heat stroke and were treated by medics while Trump remained on stage and swayed to the music for about 40 minutes without interrupting the event or expressing concern. Independent doctors and reporters discussed the incident as an atypical detail of his behavior, contrasting with the usual reaction of politicians. Today, this episode is often revisited because Trump himself has repeatedly emphasized that despite everything, he demonstrates enviable energy, resilience, and the ability to work in extreme conditions. One of his favorite arguments is stories about medical examinations. In interviews, he has repeatedly said that he easily passed a very difficult IQ test, or excelled in a cognitive exam at Walter Reed Hospital, emphasizing his sharp mind and readiness for debate. In fact, we are talking about a brief 10-minute Montreal cognitive assessment designed for the early detection of cognitive disorders such as dementia or Alzheimer's disease. The creator of the method, Canadian Dr. Ziad Nasreddin, emphasized that MoCA does not measure intelligence and is not an IQ test, but only a screening for basic functions. Nevertheless, Trump has repeatedly boasted of scoring the maximum on this scale, first in 2018 and again at his April 2025 checkup. Assuring his audience that his memory is fine, he remembers the details of deals, and he is ready for any challenges. He often even publicly invites young politicians to take the same test, claiming that they will not score better than him and that this will prove his superiority in mental fitness. Against this backdrop, a contradictory picture emerges, where official data clashes with public observations and expert assessments. On the one hand, the official position confirms the president's vigor and robust health, backed up by regular checkups and monitoring. In October of this year, Dr. Sean Barbabella published a brief memorandum in which he stated explicitly, Trump remains in exceptional health, with healthy indicators for his heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, and nervous system. Doctors emphasize that apart from the venous problem described, no other chronic diseases have been identified in the president. There are no signs of vascular abnormalities, previous heart attacks or strokes, tumor processes, neurological deficits, or endocrine disorders. It is reported that the swelling of the ankles and bruises do not affect the daily routine. The doctor notes that hospitalization or special interventions are not required, and prevention and observation are sufficient. The White House press service has repeatedly stated that the president is in optimal physical health, although it has refrained from providing details of individual examinations for reasons of confidentiality and medical ethics. When reporters inquired about the reasons for the unscheduled MRI at the military hospital, Leavitt only said that it was a routine follow-up examination to monitor known conditions, promising to return to the topic. No further explanations followed. Officials also point out that Trump maintains a busy schedule of trips, rallies, meetings with leaders, and receptions, sticking to his usual routine of golf, a moderate fast food diet, and minimal rest. Similarly, in 2017, the press service commented on his strange diction during a speech about Israel. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders explained the episode as simply a dry mouth from a long speech without water. And now this approach is being repeated. Even cases of unsteady gait or slips of the tongue are explained by the administration as everyday factors such as fatigue, lighting, noise, or technical glitches, minimizing the seriousness of the observed episodes. On the other hand, outside of official statements, skepticism is growing among independent experts, the public, and opposition media. An unsteady gait, slurred speech, and periodic slips of the tongue are noted quite regularly, not only on social media but also in reports by foreign journalists, such as the BBC, The Guardian, and Le Monde. Many doctors emphasize that neurological and vascular disorders in people of this age can remain hidden for a long time, and then manifest themselves suddenly against a backdrop of stress, dehydration, or even minor external influences such as flying, across time zones. Thus, phlebologists remind us that chronic venous insufficiency often goes unnoticed during a routine examination without obvious signs. You wouldn't do an ultrasound of your veins if you didn't see varicose veins or swelling, said a surgeon from a general hospital in Massachusetts. In other words, during a standard physical examination without complaints, such a diagnosis may simply not have come up before, especially if the patient does not draw attention to it. Neuropsychology and psychiatry experts, for their part, point out that Trump's fragmented, sometimes erratic statements, such as abrupt transitions from topic to topic in the middle of a speech, repetition of phrases, or loss of train of thought, look suspiciously similar to possible mild cognitive impairment. Renowned clinical psychiatrist Richard Friedman recently noted that any impartial expert would be seriously concerned about this level of malfunction in speech and memory, especially in the context of age and family history. This is indirectly supported by the fact that in speeches during the same period, Trump repeatedly confused dates and figures and recounted stories about his family, meetings with world leaders, or personal achievements that were then easily refuted by facts from open sources or archives. Formally, these episodes have not been declared by anyone to be signs of illness, but they are alarming to analysts, doctors, and the public, especially given his advanced age, family history of illness, and lack of complete transparency in medical reports. As a result, by the fall of 2025, the picture remains ambiguous, multifaceted, and open to interpretation. Formally, the White House strongly denies the progression of any serious ailments. Officials claim that everything is under control and that minor ailments are normal for his age, do not affect his duties, and do not require any changes to his schedule. But virtually every new unusual incident, whether it be a video from a rally, a photo from a meeting, or an audio recording of an interview, instantly gives rise to a wave of speculation about a possible real decline in strength, hidden problems, and long-term risks. Doctors and experts urge people to refrain from jumping to conclusions. Final judgments can only be made on the basis of complete medical reports, which are traditionally published in fragments without details and with an emphasis on the positive. While some trust the assurances about the president's exceptional health, his own statements, and his visual activity, others are not quick to dismiss obvious discrepancies, noticeable lapses in behavior, and physiological signals as simple old age, fatigue, or accidents. The country and the world continue to closely watch every public appearance, analyze speeches, and follow the news, but today it is impossible to say with certainty whether the episodes described fall within the limits of normal age-related changes, or whether they show signs of a more serious problem that requires attention and, possibly, intervention. Trump's actual condition and reserves of strength will only become clear with time. As new examinations are conducted, the array of data being examined expands, reports become more transparent, and ultimately political events unfold.